Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, here today to talk to you about Est from the Dutch-based band Ghoul off of Consoling Sounds. And yes, Ghoul is how you pronounce this band name. It's very creatively spelled. And Ghoul combines elements of doom metal and some sludge and even some hints of black metal. And all of these influences are filtered through an approach that is very informed by post-rock and post-metal. You get those tension-building passages that you would expect from bands within that specific tradition of music. The opening track here, Rape, it's very minimalist. It's mainly 2.5 minutes of very droning guitar riffs. And this track does a good job of establishing the mood of the entire album. It's a really good example of a way to incorporate a more introductory instrumental interlude in a way that really works and serves a real purpose for the album. And this track seamlessly moves into the next one, Falter, where you get these brash, doomy riffs, and it takes about 2.5 minutes of this building before you get these very slimy, black metal-esque vocals. And the music continuously gets bigger and louder and more intense. The guitar riffs get progressively more violent. But what's interesting is what the drums do here. They remain very skeletal. It creates this very intriguing contrast where, because of what the drums are doing, there's almost two lanes of building tension. There's what the rest of the track does, and it's disorienting paired with what the drums are doing, kind of building tension in a different way and not allowing for a release on kind of the bottom here. I believe if the drums kind of matched the intensity and the build of the other instruments, this track would feel a lot different. So that was a good decision artistically for this kind of composition. The third track, Enkel Achterin, I believe it's pronounced, I feel like the album up to this point has been kind of leading us to here, where you get the first quote-unquote real big moment on the record. And this Est, and kind of shown here, is an album that I think will require, for most people, a few listens, because it is not a record that gives much instant gratification. Things take time to kind of develop. Here on this track, you get these very dissonant guitars that play these massively distorted riffs. It sounds pretty rough in a good way. And they're paired with some even more gruesome vocals. The whole thing feels like it's gonna cave in at some point, though it never does. And the drums continue to do very interesting things. It plays this very engulfing pattern, and the cymbals are very loud and shiny. I think it was very intentionally mixed this way. And they seem to send these warnings of incoming doom into your head, especially if you're listening to this on headphones. You just get this ding, 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 and that carries on into the next track, Sant Al Ras, where the doom influences really start to come through. You get these slow, dense riffs where you kind of feel every note on this track. There's not a lot of filling chimes or hums here. It's all kind of mm, mm, mm. And here we're introduced to some more melodicism. You get this very dismal, somber lead, and that is kind of nest these vocals that here are just completely tortured and distraught. It's a very intense moment, and I've used that word a lot, but I think that's a great way to kind of describe everything that's going on in this record. Stew Up takes the album into more of a noise direction. You get layers of buzz and hum that carry you for the majority of this track until it kind of lets up and presents you the more sludgy hoisting ruined sails. And here we get these more, you get the stonery riffs and that type of distortion that you might expect to hear from, say, a Yob record, I would say is a comparison I would draw here. The closing track, and I'm going to butcher the name. I believe it's Vortuig der Verhonen is the best attempt I'm going to give here. It's the biggest sounding song here by far. I think it's kind of designed to be that kind of grand finale that the rest of the album has been kind of carrying us to and getting us ready for. You get these very post-metal-ish inspired guitar swells, and the drums do this processional thing kind of on the snare and the toms, where you just get this dun 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 dun, kind of like this marching quality. And I've talked about the drums a lot, but it's really interesting because it seems like through the entirety of the album, the band elects to use the drums in a very theatrical way instead of kind of using a lot of technicality. And I really appreciate that approach. I think it was the right approach for the drums here on this record. Excess is an unsettling listening experience. It has all of those moments of building tension and kind of changes in dynamics. But unlike a typical post-rock or post-metal album, there are no real resolves anywhere or kind of grand climaxes. There's no real highs on this record. It just continuously gets more bleak and full of despair. But if you're someone who wants or is looking for or appreciates a more crushing listening experience, and I would expect if you're someone who is watching a metal reviewer on YouTube, that might be something you're into, then I think this record will work for you if you have any interest in doom metal or other forms of kind of mournful, heavy sounds. This record will do it for you. Ghoul demonstrates a real understanding and appreciation for pacing. Every track here is kind of put together in this puzzle that is carefully taking you from one point to the end, and it all kind of works as a whole. And they never give you too much at one time or play all of their cards too early. You can't really take any of these tracks out of context. This is designed as one singular piece, this record is. And I think they succeeded in creating this very big but harsh and desolate and cinematic experience for the listener. And those are my thoughts. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this review and you would be so kind, hit that like button. If you'd like to be alerted of more reviews, as there are definitely more coming, and you would be so kind as well to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that. Comment any feedback below and tell me any thoughts you had of the record. I would be very interested to hearing that. Thank you again for watching. You can follow me on Twitter. The link is in the channel bio. Keep it metal. This is Maddie, aka Beaver Mosh, signing off.